the May meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is called order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I move we accept the bills and accounts as
Ordered.
ordered.
I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The RFP Performance Energy Contract.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that a lot last month. And just to kind of update you, I have copies of the project development agreement, which I think Bill looked it over, has looked it over.
I looked it over.
Okay, he's fine with it. So they're the copies. I know there was some concern about only getting one proposal. So Al and I and Jane actually had a conference call with HD Supply and their partner, Saks Metering, and they do meter installs.
Do you know?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, come on.
Sure.
Sure, yeah, you can, I can just print more.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
not a problem. To see, you know, just to feel and see if we get another proposal, to get another perspective on this. Because frankly, you know, they're all saying they don't like the energy performance, they'd rather you deal with them directly. Jump in here, Al, but I think the upshot of what I heard from HD Supply was they're more than capable with their partner, Saks, of doing a meter replacement program. But they're not willing, or even don't believe that we should do the audit. We should just replace them all on some schedule. So I'm still in favor of at least going through the audit to see how accurate the meters are. And I have to tell you, Jane in our office, who probably knows more about our customer water consumption habits than anybody, because they're her customers. She does the billing, she pays close attention to all of it. She believes that this is a total waste of time and money. And I promised her I'd tell you that. She believes that she sees meters that stop, and then we replace them. When the consumption was here, they stop, and they go right back to here. So she doesn't believe that they slow down before they stop. She pulled meters and she looked at them, and she just doesn't believe our domestic meters are slow. Our large meters could be, you know, but the truth is, the more she told me how much she believed that they weren't, the more I think we need the audit to be able to determine that scientifically. I really believe that. She thinks $75,000 is a lot of money.
I do too.
Well, I mean, you know, I told her I'd tell you exactly what you know, she's not saying it because she truly believes that this is just not the way to proceed. And I think that's the only way to proceed, is to do an audit to find out what we have. Whether we then, you know, whether we continue with them or go out on our own or partner with somebody else, we have a lot of other options. I'd love to know that all our meters are dead on accurate. Then we better look for that water someplace else.
So, well, I mean, at some point in time, we have to get back to Johnson Controls and make that decision.
Well, we either proceed or we don't.
No. I mean, $75,000, which we don't even know. We're hoping that the city sewer people could chip in some of that, Steve?
Well, as I think we've talked about, you know, if we, you know, move forward with this project, you know, the overall, you know, project cost and then the savings generated by the overall project, I think that that's something that we can definitely talk about. You know, as you guys know, you know, for us to kind of chip in on the initial 75 is a little complicated, because, you know, we would, you know, have to bring that to the council and, bond for that money most likely, on our end, to figure out how we would kind of move forward, but we're also, as we've indicated, the meters don't obviously meter the sewer,
But the meters,
meter is
the
what we
sewer
use to build.
bill is,
Okay.
So it's a little complicated, but I think that as we kind of, if we move forward with the project,
Right.
I think there's an opportunity for us, obviously, to look at it as a whole project,
And the 75,000, we don't pay it up front.
right.
Ultimately, if there is a project and we move forward with them, that gets rolled into the project cost, so then they would be paying for some share of that.
Mhm.
But we have a leak somewhere. It seems like the amount of water that we process and the amount of water that we use, there's a big difference between it. So if it's,
It's either in the meters,
yeah.
or it's leaks, or it's a combination thereof.
Mhm.
And so,
And so it's leaks in the pipe somewhere?
it could be in your service lateral, in which case we're knocking on everybody's door and saying, Mr. and Mrs. Sush, you have a leak on your service lateral and you really need to replace that. And that's like $4,000 or $5,000. So personally, before we get to that level, unless it's an egregious one where it's, really servicing, I'd rather know the accuracy of our meters, get those where they need to be, and then reinvestigate, do another leak detection process with it, and then kind of get our own house in order. And then if we still have a real big difference, then that's the only other place it could be.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we do move forward with this?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I am.
First, I was thinking that you were having a
No,
second thoughts.
I think we wanted to talk to another company. I talked to Middletown and they went with a different energy service company, but I wanted to get the perspective of not going with an energy service company, just, sticking with census meters and just asking them what it would cost.
Just out of curiosity, say I did have a leak at the lateral going to my house.
Yeah.
So how would that be detected with some type of radioisotope or something? Like how would you do that?
We listen, we good stuff.
Oh, that's it, okay.
We listen, we can hear. And then if we couldn't pinpoint it, we bring in a computer correlator. And a lot of times we borrow the one from the town, or they come in and do it for us if there's some
Okay.
doubt. Sometimes there's no doubt, we listen, it's not on the main, or, we turn your service off and the noise stops. And then we know it's between here and here, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's how we do it. And
Otherwise,
sometimes,
the leaks would show up on someone's water bill if
Not if
they're
they're
using a
full-
lot
if
of
we-
consumption.
there'd be-
Say-
Well, that's
That's
internal plumbing.
Yeah, like
basically.
internal,
that happens.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that happens.
Right.
But if you have a leak on your service lateral, your meter's after that leak.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
okay.
Now, if you have a leak on your service line that's a major leak, wouldn't that show up in your ground? I mean,
It often does. It often does. It often, people call up and they say, my meter's making a lot of noise. And so then you can hear it that way. Or I have no water pressure. Well, because half the water's leaking out into your front lawn, which is
Yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
green.
Yeah, I know, I just,
But it's more likely that if we're having leaks, they're more in our distribution system
I don't know.
than in the
I-
service laterals.
I think we have some in our service laterals, but I think you need to the approach I would recommend is going into a kind of a stepwise fashion to get that number together.
Well, we had a leak detection,
We did, and we recovered quite a bit, as I was explaining to Al and Jane. When we looked at the flows every day, before we did that study, and before we fixed the leaks that we did, and before we did fix the Beale Street leak, our flows coming into town were 4.8, 4.6, 4.6 million every day, somewhere in that neighborhood, and now they're right down at 4. And that Beale Street leak alone was probably 350,000 gallons. It just took us 2 years to find it, or 3 years. We knew it was there, we just couldn't.
but how detailed was this leak detection study?
They did a survey with ground lights to listen on every valve and hydrant all over the city. They used-
So every single,
They say they did, yeah. I wasn't with them. I find it was done pretty quickly to really have done that. Where they heard a noise, they would bring the computer correlator in to pinpoint it. Some of them were dead on. Some of them were, if we did this, when we do this again, I think I would break it over maybe 3 or 4 years and break it into a quarter of the city at a time. And I would insist that our people go with them, because a couple of the leaks, that's the pressure regulator on the corner down the street from you. You know, down there on Emerson, and there's Central Hudson has a pressure regulator. It gives you that sound all the time, and they wouldn't know that they're not familiar with the system. So I would, you know.
What percentage of their leak detection was erroneous?
I don't think any of it was erroneous. I think that we found, after we got really look at it, we fixed the ones they identified, and then we went out and we found several more ourselves. They never could find that in Beale Street leak, and we only found that accidentally. That was the gentleman who owned the marina there and the bulkhead. He said, "Can you explain to me why there's water just pouring through that bulkhead all the time?" And there it was in the catch basin, it had been there all the time.
So we found more things by ourselves than they
Well,
found. And if
I
it was
mean-
something very significant, you almost know about it.
A big one comes and gets you, but the little ones, no, they found a number of them, they really did.
Okay. But then beyond that, we've always thought that, I think you've always thought that the domestic lines were probably not the culprits anyway. It would be the larger meters anyway. Because
Right.
that's why they're not even
Yeah.
gonna look at the small ones.
They're gonna look at the small ones, but they're gonna, you know, do a subset.
They're gonna do a
They're gonna do a
calculation.
sample.
Yeah.
They're gonna do a sample, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think James, I mean, even if I would take her word for her impression, because she does the edit. You know, no bill goes out of here that we don't look it over or edit it. If the two readings the same in a quarter, we send somebody out to make sure the house is vacant or the meter's stopped. I mean, they have a pretty tight system. I mean, I
Jane's
think,
very diligent on that, and, you know, she's not shy about making service orders to check these things out. And in addition to that, she has organized what we call sweeps,
yes.
not to be,
Not like
or
drug, not
police sweeps,
right.
but whereby we will actually do quarter by quarter, zone by zone, for a given quarter, a sweep of all the questionable accounts in that particular zone. And so, you know, once again, I'm just, you know, agreeing that Jane is very on top.
So what's a sweep? What actually happens when you say?
She sends the guys out and she said, here's these 20 accounts. I don't like the way they look. I want you to tell me what you see there. Is there a leak? Most of it's vacant.
Right, but in some cases, we request entry if somebody's home,
Yeah.
if that's appropriate. And
We find the meter
so
on the floor.
we will do all the observation and investigation that we possibly can within our realm.
Right. And I think when we talk to both Johnson Controls and we've talked to HD and Census, some of the things that they're gonna do for us, they're not gonna find because she's ahead of them on that. I think in talking to these guys who go out and they look at other systems, a lot of utilities don't do this. And I think we're ahead of the game in that,
I'm sure we are.
you know, on that, so. Yes, but I'm still recommending, you know, we go forward with this. Just insofar as we get the audit done and see where that is.
Now,
Go ahead.
if the board allows me to just make, Judy and I, Judy, I and Jane, you know, spoke about this a couple times. And my thought on it was to do it, the audit as a two-phase. The one part, the audit consists of doing a sample of the small meters. And 66 of the small meters would be randomly chosen to be tested. Small meters being 5/8 and 3/4. And Judy, if I'm saying anything incorrect, just
They,
no.
Well, there's,
Pagan and Dennis read through that, so they're pretty familiar.
Yeah, okay. So that's a sampling of, and yes, it's supposed to be a statistically significant.
At 95% confidence level.
Yeah, and so this is an equation that, you know, apparently exists. And then the meters 2 inches and larger are to be tested 100% as part of the audit. Then there's two other sizes. There's an inch and a half, which are called middle intermediate, and that's also gonna be a sampling. I felt that we should start a phase whereby we're testing the large meters 100%, and do that initially as an audit. And it's been said often that that's the bulk of our water, both in revenue and in use.
I don't think that's a cost-effective way to approach it, and I think at the end of the day, I still don't know how accurate our meters are.
Let me ask a question. I'm looking at the sample sizes they're using. They're using, for example, the 5/8, 66 meters.
Right.
What percentage of the total?
That's less than 1%. Alan's
Less
gonna
than-
tell you that, because
Yeah.
he's good with the numbers. However, because we have like 7,500 of those.
Okay. And do you feel that sample is robust enough to give you,
And I've asked them that question, and they say that they have a very sophisticated algorithm for picking those random, truly random samples, and that does give them the 95% confidence level that, and don't forget, they're the ones who are guaranteeing this. And they say no matter how, the analogy I want to use is like buying lottery tickets. Your real probability doesn't change if you buy one ticket or you buy 50 tickets. And I think, so Sorority's 1,500 meters, we have 8,000 almost, they still did 66 of that size, no matter where they go. That's what they're telling me. They tell me no matter how big the system, 66 meters is the magic number. I'm skeptical.
I was skeptical about that too, Harold.
I mean, I don't know, the methodology that they use, but 1% seems a very small
They say
sample
that
size.
they have honed it to the point where they believe that it's, gonna give you that 95% confidence level. And since they're providing the guarantee, but I agree, I was astounded when because I, in my head, I said Sorority's is a quarter of the size, quarter of the size of us. And if you did 66, then we should do 4 times 66. And they're like, no, 66 is a magic number.
And they've given us recommendations that we can call and ask people how it worked.
I've done that.
Okay.
I've done all
Do you
that.
feel confident?
That in the end probably means more than anything else that's on paper, is what people experience themselves. And the type of questions that Judy is able to ask from her peers to say, what did you do, what did they do right, what did they do wrong, what would you do differently the next time? So am I understanding that they won't allow you to just do the large meters, or you really believe the small meters?
Well, we didn't even approach them on that because we asked them for, part of their process is to audit our meters, to tell us how accurate they were. I didn't propose to do it over 2 years or 3 years because I want to know how accurate they are today.
All meters.
All of them.
Gotcha.
And then we come up, and I don't think on the mobilization end of it, it really would pay you to do it in 2 steps, but maybe it would. I mean, we can certainly ask, but that wouldn't be my recommendation to do it that way anyway.
I think you want to move the ball forward.
I want to get it going.
You wanna get it
We've been
done.
talking about this for too long. And that doesn't mean that I want, if all these meters say that there's a reason to replace every meter, or almost every meter. I would never propose that we do that all in 1 year.
No.
Because, first of all, you don't want a nut so big you choke on it, but also because,
Breaking the same year.
exactly, we're all gonna die in the same year. Until 15 or 20 years from now, somebody's gonna be sitting here, it won't be me, but you're gonna have the same conversation.
What percentage of the existing meters, say the 5/8 meters, are new meters?
Funny you should ask that. 86% of our meters are more than 10 years old.
Okay, so,
The only time we ever replace a small meter like that, obviously if it's a new set, if somebody's moving into the house, we do. The other reason we would do that is if they freeze, in which case they're broken and we replace them.
Now, I could specifically even more answer that because you were asking 5/8.
right. I'm just picking the top number.
86% is the total of the 5/8.
Is 86%.
It's about 1,000 are new versus the 6,000 that are old.
86%, I graphed your numbers.
Okay.
It comes out to be 86%, and that's a different, yeah. We're saying the same thing, I think 86.
86% of those 5/8?
Are more than 10 years.
These are all
10 years
these
and
are over
more.
10 years
Okay.
and more. So obviously, they're not in size order, that's why I put the
Right,
tabs on the
I
side, so you
see.
can see what they, the 5/8 are in the bottom, and
Right.
Well, I know they.
Well, they're all in the 80%.
They're all old.
They're all old, which in itself is a case for doing the study, because, you know,
if Jane's gut is correct, or her, just her observation, her anecdotal observation is correct, I would be very happy if almost all of our 5/8 inch meters were accurate and dead on, because that's a heck of a lot of money that we'd save. I mean, it would be wonderful. We just radio them and off we go.
Well, they did indicate that they weren't gonna test newer meters.
Anything, yeah, we would tell them not to do.
they're gonna leave those out, I remember that discussion. We have to tell them what they are, and they're gonna leave it out of the survey.
5 years, anything 5 years or newer.
I mean, this is the first that I've actually had the opportunity to see this document. Can
Me
we-
too.
Can we postpone or table a decision until next month, and it allows everyone to maybe go through this document?
Sure.
This is basically what we're agreeing to.
Absolutely.
Could you send us this graph too?
Sure.
Yeah, because that's a very interesting graph about the age of the meters.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, and I will pursue a little more about the 66 meters. It just doesn't seem enough. And I'll ask them. I mean, that's how I'll phrase it.
Mr. Quigley?
Yeah, I just want to add, town of Ulster's in a similar position. We have about 2,200 accounts. The majority of them are much like yours, residential, small. We did an analysis of our meter size and our inventory, and we just came out 2 years ago and mandated everybody over 2-inch replace your meters. On the 30 meters that we replaced it out of the 50, we had our first full billing cycle in the quarter ending December. I got a 25% increase in water consumption on just the 30 meters.
Wow.
2 inches and.
2 inches and larger. So what, I know where you're going, but I just say, take a look at your larger meters, and in our case, in our code, the customer owns the meter. And we examined mandatory testing and certification versus mandatory replacement, and we came down to the conclusion, like with the head trauma center, they had an 8-inch industrial meter in a nursing home that registered
That's the wrong application.
minimum of 14 gallons a minute of flow. Well, in the middle of the night when 5 people got up to go to the bathroom, the register wasn't reflecting the water consumption. So we changed the meter out. And it's the same with Temple Commons now with the nursing home. They're all screaming, but we all now know we have an accurate measurement of water. So we took a look at it and went at it in a different direction by saying, who are our biggest customers and what percentage of our total volume did that represent? And went right after them.
Now, do the homeowners own the meters?
No, we own them.
Okay, you own the
Yes,
meters.
different situation.
Different, so
We own the meters, it's our cash register.
Yep.
could you change that formula if you had to swap them all out? And so that in the future, the homeowners would own them?
I don't know if you want to do that, but we could certainly, you could, by resolution, do anything you want to do.
I didn't raise it for that
I
point.
don't think you want to do that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what your meter inventory size dispersion is and the percentage, but if you're looking at like with the 2 hospitals and other large users, you might get 60 to 70% of your daily consumption by getting 30 or 40 meters. Just replace them all.
I will say that our meters, the way the town of Ulster went about it is very different than the way we would go about it. Nobody would put an 8-inch meter in the hospital, in our nursing home here, because we own the meters, we tell them what size meter. I mean, I just had an argument with people redoing one of the buildings in the high school. The architect engineer wanted to put a 4-inch meter in. I said, what are your meter flows? He gave me this, I said, that's a 2-inch meter. He said, well, he's doing it for his He doesn't want the head loss across his meter. Well, the new meters don't have that kind of head loss. I said, you're gonna do a 2-inch meter. We're not putting a 4-inch meter in there. And so I think we had a little tighter control, and I only say that because the building department, in the beginning of history out there, kind of controlled the meter sizes, and I don't think your water department had.
I don't have that history, but you're
I don't think
probably
they had, I don't
right.
think, because I think if the water department had more involvement, he wouldn't have that. And I only raise it to say that I'm not sure we're gonna see 30%. I don't know. I don't want anybody, I don't want to.
I don't want to mislead anybody in a decision, but I wanted to give you an alternative focus of how we went at it. That's all.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, it sounds like it's something that we have to do, but, I think,
You wanna look at it, sure.
if we park, if we park this for the agenda and come back to the next month, I think
Yeah.
we have a chance.
I'd like to
chance
go
read
through it
it.
and
Absolutely. And then
read through it at least and be a little
Yeah,
more
that's
comfortable with what we're agreeing to as opposed to.
Could we send Judy comments maybe in the next 2 weeks so that Judy could have time to get
Come
them
back.
Back to us,
Thank you.
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Just one more question before we move on. Why wouldn't we want the homeowner to own the meter and be responsible for it, so we take some of the burden off of the water department?
Well, first of all, they pay for them. So every meter the property owner pays for, we still retain the ownership. So we charge them the cost.
Oh, so it's not our cost,
Well, we don't, for a brand new set. If we go in and replace them, we've never passed that along to the homeowner.
Okay.
You build a new house or new building and you want water
You own the
service.
meter.
You're
You
gonna
own the
pay
meter.
us
You're gonna
$300.
pay us whatever the cost of that meter is plus installation.
But since the meter is city property, we have the right to go in and look at that meter. Anytime, reasonable hours, we can go in with a cop if we have to.
Okay.
So from that perspective, I think we have more coverage than if the customer owned it. More control. The reality is, I don't think the police department's gonna kick in the door because we haven't gotten a reading on some lady's meter.
No,
But there are instances where we found theft of service that they have been,
why wouldn't we just charge them for the replacement? I mean, so it wouldn't be a burden on the taxpayer.
You could do that.
I
I
mean-
mean, that's something you could consider. You could put a surcharge on the account.
And just charge them for the replacement of the meter.
You could, I mean, that's something to consider.
I mean, because obviously your budget's extremely tight,
Yeah,
and you'd have to go out for bonding to replace a large number of meters.
this could be a $4 million project, we gotta replace them all.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
And I would pass it on to the homeowner, and the rationale would be that we're gonna lower their water bill. Because they're gonna have a more accurate meter.
How you know?
It may go Water bill.
The other way.
It's going the other way around.
It's gonna go.
But
Maybe.
it's a lot of money, I mean, and
You may wanna consider building a charge into the administrative charge, the base charge, to do it over a number of years, to have a sinking fund down the road that would pay for meter replacements.
amortize it over 5 years.
And we also talked about trying to change the fact that we have that sliding scale and we have like 5 or 7.
Yeah, you wanna get some of those, you wanna tighten that rate schedule, I think, a little bit.
One other question, that kind of bouncing off Harold's question. In your report, you talked about 2 meters where
They were stolen.
stolen. So in that particular case, I can see where we would be charging,
We do,
okay.
oh yeah,
How do we get
we put it on the bill.
okay.
Now,
What would they do with a stolen meter?
scrap value.
Scrap that.
These are houses that I'm sure the mayor now owns or is going to own.
Tell the building owner.
He's the real estate mogul in town?
Well, no, they go in and they steal the copper for scrap value.
Well, I know that, I mean,
And then they take the meter with, and that happened to
Meter
both
happens
those.
to go.
both those houses.
Yeah, both those houses. So there was no copper, there's no plumbing left in the house. So, we can put
So
it
you
on.
tack it on their bill, but the bill is that the city's probably gonna
It depends.
take over
It
for
depends.
taxes.
I don't take that many, only a dozen or so a year, but it
It does go on their tax bill then.
It'll go, some of these people are paying, they do. And in some cases, they rehab the houses,
However,
But in all those cases, if it's a vacant house,
if the city owns the house at the time that we do the re-levy, it's something that could be exempted off the bills. It depends on the situation.
And also, when the city takes a house over, the first thing we do, we move the meter
Yeah, well, that's
on a
what I
vacant house. I mean, we get a list, we work really closely with the building department, with the corporation counsel's office. We go in and we stop the water, turn it off at curb, if we can.
I mean, it's
So
an
there's no
advantage
more
to
charges.
an owner of a vacant house. The problem with most vacant houses, the owners are not around anyway.
You know, in a couple cases, they're rehabbing them, somebody just bought them,
Okay.
they're getting their, and they walk in and there's no copper. You know, when they did the walkthrough on the closing, everything was intact, and, you know, it just happened. It's a problem.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we charge them back on,
Frozen meters too.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And if you have two frozen meters in one calendar year, we raise it an extra $100, because it's just beyond the pale that you would let that happen twice in one winter.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
named that, in-house, we've named that after a particular customer. We call it the like amendment when we passed it.
Okay, table that to
Yep.
next month. Okay, the SCADA system.
SCADA, I still haven't got, I still haven't.
Ready for plans?
I am. We're meeting on Tuesday here to tie up all the loose ends on the SCADA issue and on Phase 1B, and to talk about the new grant opportunity, what we're gonna do there.
Okay, you want to talk about
Sure.
that now?
Yeah.
Because that kind of falls in with
It does.
what your planning is.
It does. When you plan when we got the SCADA system through a grant, through Sandy's, the storm mitigation loan program that the state had, following Sandy. So we designed, and I think, Tom, we talked about this at the other meeting. So we designed the whole system, and then when we actually, kind of costed it out, we really didn't have enough money in the grants. We're about $400,000 short. So there's a grant opportunity, I think I sent the information out. And so what we thought we might do with that is, there's a couple of problems with the grant opportunity, or not problems, but challenges. And one of them is that the governor and EFC announced this opportunity less than 2 weeks ago, and we have a June 23rd deadline for submission, which means, and that's really difficult because we have to get common council approval for the bond, we have to have the board pass a resolution. There's a lot of moving parts that we got to pull together. The other thing, we sat through a seminar on that grant opportunity yesterday, and Dennis was there, and Al and I sat there. One of the things that was clear about this grant opportunity was that they want shovel-ready projects and they want construction, because part of the way this was sold to the legislature was more jobs through construction. So they're not going to fund studies, and so we tried to package something together that would be not a whole lot of in-depth engineering that had to be done, something that we could put together relatively easily. And so we thought we would build on the SCADA project, put the bounds and what we have for that. That was kind of a no-brainer to kind of put the $400,000 that we need for the SCADA project. And the other issue was valves are a big deal for us.
Okay, that's, everybody got that.
Yeah, everybody got that. Yeah, and the valves are a big deal for us, and that's kind of a continuation of the transmission main project that we're undergoing, that we're designing right now. And two other things, we have a small piece, a mile, of pre-stressed concrete pipe, Jim, that was put in 1954 below the treatment plant. We don't have any experience with dealing with concrete pipe. But one of the things I know about, from reading about concrete pipe, is that to give it structural integrity, there's wires inside. And certain ages of these pipes, if they get the corrosion on those rings gets sufficient, they'll just ping right down. You hear the propagation going all the way down, and then the side blows out of the pipe. So I think there's some non-destructive ways to, and now with technology, I know there's a couple companies out there that can do a condition assessment on that. They can actually tell you what the integrity of those hoops are. I think that's probably prudent to do. And the other thing we'd like to do is purchase a valve insertion tool when we're fixing a break. You can't, sometimes you gotta shut down 5 blocks to fix a pipe that, you know, you need. And if this tool, you would just insert a valve just like you would make a patent tap. And it's a pricey item, but not terrible, but $55,000, and I think that's something that we would share with other utilities. And, you know, Town of Ulster always generously shares their computer correlator with us, and we would share that with them. I mean, bring them in on the training, and so they could, you know, use it as well. So that was the project that we thought we would put together. It would be relatively quick to pull this together. We'd have a shot, you know, most of the engineering report and the project description are kind of cut and paste from things we've already done. We certainly need the valves. The other downside of this grant application is that they want to spread the money around. And so if we got that grant last year, that counts against us, because you can only get $3 million in 5 years, and we got one for $2 million. See, the maximum project we can put together is $1.5 million, because 60% of that is grant, and the rest has to come from a low-interest loan through the state. So, scheduled to go over to the finance tonight. I wrote that letter, so we did get on the agenda so that they could, at their June meeting.
So the plans, CDM's doing the plans, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The plans we're going to be for the complete project.
Yes,
And then we're only going to construct the amount that we had money for, which was
for the
less than...
SCADA, yes.
Yeah, less the $400,000.
Right.
And if this thing comes through,
Right, then we get the balance right there.
then we'll be able to
Right. and-
jump right back
and-
into it.
With the SCADA project, you really can't design, you have to design the whole, because conceptual design, you gotta design how everything ultimately is gonna fit together to make sure you have the backbone in place, to everything report back. So we didn't realize that we were kind of overreaching when we did it, unfortunately, but in fact we were. But, you know, that's the way that kind of worked out for us, unfortunately. But, I think the project we can put together relatively quickly, and I think we can, we'll be successful. I didn't bring the diagram with me.
Judy, if they award, do they award by project?
No, I think that they would give us the whole thing. If this condition assessment, they might say, you know, we're not funding studies right now, but I think that would turn into a project very quickly. So they might deduct that.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure about that price either. These other prices I'm very certain of, because I already quote for that, because I like to buy that anyway.
So when you expect plans, they give you a date at all, and they think they're going to have stuff to us?
Well, I'll talk to him on Tuesday.
Okay.
But the next thing I need from him is a proposal, so we can hire him formally. That's part of the application, and he won't have that till the June meeting. But he'll start working on it between now and then. I mean, some of the stuff, like the SCADA, is easy to pull together. That's already done. That's already done. And the condition assessment, I have everything I need for this. And the transmission, he just has to write something up for that. So it shouldn't take long to pull together. Not a whole lot of engineering here.
This would be great. You know?
It would be,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. It would be wonderful. I mean, I wish we could go for another 3 million.
Be nice getting the capital improvement
Well,
project.
and we went through the capital improvement plan and picked that out, to kind of cherry pick that stuff, so it's all in there.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, I don't really know what else to,
Right.
you know, they weren't really interested in painting tanks and that kind of stuff.
If that concrete line is bad,
Yep.
that has to be replaced, or can you do an insertion?
I would say, Jim, you could probably do an insertion in that, because it's a 20-inch main, and you wouldn't
can line
lose.
it.
You can line it,
You can line it?
sure.
The problem with the pre-stressed cylinder pipe is, as Judy mentioned, the cables are stretched, they're pre-stressed, and what happened is, they found out that especially in sewage, the hydrogen sulfide gases corroded the contacts. On this picture, piano
Yeah.
cables, and they just keep snapping, boom, 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 boom. And that's what happened, especially in sewage. The force mains in sewage, a lot of them collapsed in the last 10 years. it just fell apart.
They say that.
Water is much different.
Right.
but
They,
Still,
they say that you can actually hear the ping going all the way down the pipe once it starts.
the company went out of business.
That's the overall design for the SCADA system. So that's all in concept. We only have enough money in that other grant pieces of it, and this would bring the rest online.
But it's going to use a uniform system.
Yeah, so you have, an
That's good.
interchangeable.
It's good opportunity.
It is, it would be, to bring it all on.
Right.
And the metal is just a form of steel, it's just some type of steel?
On the pipes?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't here until.
Well, you just think that, I know, but you think that, yeah, okay. Well, if they would replace this, you think that they would then just kind of rethink if they have this problem of using, I don't know, if they,
I don't think they do it,
some kind of alloy that just wouldn't have the corrosion with.
Right, and I think it's embedded in the concrete, and that's a pretty hostile environment, pH-wise and corrosion, so I think there's a lot of factors that, and I know some pipes is better than others. We've never had a problem with it. In fact,
Okay.
I almost forgot it was there, and I said, ooh. And somebody got telling me their sad story, I said, we have such miles on that. I don't have it broken, I don't have it fixed.
And where is that?
Maybe it's because of the plant Jockey Hill. What got me to pull the plans the other day was, Tom asked for the plans because that's where we're going to do a valve replacement, right there at Jockey Hill. And I said,
You know what though, because the pH of our water and, hydrosulfuric acid is such a weak acid, so probably maybe it doesn't, we don't have the problem with the corrosion.
we may
because of
not,
that.
we may not,
Yeah.
we may not,
Yeah,
because we do buffers there. But yeah, I don't know, but it's something we should probably look at.
yeah, well, and it's interesting. Okay.
Can the state actually go forward without the additional money? In other words,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
still do part?
yes,
Yeah, well-
absolutely.
We'll do all the plans for the whole project, and then we'll just pay for what we have money for, and then with the hopes that we get this other additional grant, and we'll get the whole thing done.
Right.
And maybe, depending upon how quick they evaluate grants and issue grants, that may actually fall in within the same time that we're almost ready to go out to bid.
It would be, because they're looking at, the designs would already have been done. You build the backbone so that you can add the pieces on later, you kind of just standardize it, and he has an estimate for everything that we would need, so that part of the application is gonna be good. I mean, the application's not easy, but it's, have you downloaded it yet?
No.
I haven't had time to do it either, we just, but we will. Yeah, we will.
Okay. Binnewater UPS,
Excuse me.
We need a resolution
We need a resolution.
resolution for,
for the two,
Basically, it would be the resolution to request approval from the city common council to pursue funding from the EFC for this
in
project,
an amount not to exceed
not to exceed,
1.5 million.
not to exceed 1.5 million.
okay,
Okay, I'll make that resolution.
okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Who was the second?
Go ahead.
Take a pick,
Either Bob or Joanne.
Joanne.
flip a coin.
Her name is easier to put down.
This is Schwartz.
JS or RN?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. You have all the wording you need for that motion 2L, or that's not?
That's.
Did you get that
that's
from
the
Tom?
wording. Tom said that a simplistic motion with that wording was fine.
Okay. Okay. So that actually takes care of the,
That's two.
with a funding application.
You got it.
Okay. So jumping back up to the Binnewater UPS installation project?
Jim and I we're still working with Tom to get the language in the bid documents correct.
Okay.
And it's, my schedule, his schedule, and Tom travels, so we're hoping to send him the documents, what we wanted him to do, and then we're gonna have a conference call hopefully next week. The difficulty was, we want to pre-purchase the UPS through a bid process. Then we want to assign that contract to the installation contractor. And Tom didn't, he's not familiar with doing it in that way. And so we really needed to get him some examples, and it just took some time to get it to us.
Okay. Cooper Lake,
Well, I don't,
improvements.
every month I say I don't have anything to tell you, but this month I kind of do because, last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago. Dennis and the mayor and I met at Assemblyman Cahill and Senator, we actually met in Senator Amador's office, but Assemblyman Cahill came down the hall, down the floor to meet with us, and we talked about funding Cooper Lake. And Jim was gonna go with us, but he was sick that day. And so we did stress that it was a shared problem because, you know, as we have to undertake this bond, this big burden on Cooper Lake and the high cost, that gets passed along to him and the cost of his water. And so it's really, we really wanted to drive the message home that this impacted a large portion of both of their districts. And I think the message was received. And this morning I got an email from Lori Wheelock, who is Assemblyman Cahill's legislative assistant and counsel, and his director and counsel. And she sent me an email and a draft of a letter that they are going to jointly sign and send to the DEC to secure funding if they can for this project. And she's asking for my input on some specific things, so if anybody would like a draft of this. She's also asking me to add information that emphasizes the town of Ulster, because that's not in here. She's gonna reach out to you as well. I know she's done that.
Do you want to give copies?
I got copies.
To them.
Could you make me a couple more? Here's one that's unstapled.
I'll make my own right here. How many you want?
One for, I have 3 here, maybe 4 or 5. Anyway, Jim, you can have that if you'd like. She's gonna send it to you. And you
I have a
have
copy.
one, and Bill will get the rest. And so anybody who has any suggestions on how to improve this letter, or send them to me and I'll send them to her. She's looking to turn this around as quickly as she can, because she wants to get it in there.
And so this is a request to the Commissioner for DEC to,
Allow funding for dam work through the current.
through the one we just looked at? Or
Well, but that would be maybe on the clean water side. I don't know either.
the third category?
Maybe. Anyway, they're hopeful that it will work.
We may want to encourage her to potentially also send it to the EFC chair,
Okay.
because the
Yeah.
DEC does roll out some of these rules and regulations, but I think the Environmental Facilities Corporation
I think they do it in concert together.
could potentially also, you know,
Yep,
play a role in different programs.
yep.
I mean, well, I guess it's the DEC dam regulations, that's why DEC gets it, as opposed to the fact that it's a drinking water reservoir.
Right, and I think that Assemblyman thinks he has a better opportunity to have a discussion with the DEC about this because of some of the committees that he serves on and some of his background, as opposed to DOH. Although DOH, you know, they'll tell you they don't fund dams.
So there are 247 high hazard dams in the state.
Well, they're drinking water.
They're drinking water, that's pretty,
There's more than 247 high hazard dams.
those are just the drinking water.
There is, yes, those are just the drinking water ones, yeah.
And we have 2 of them.
Excellent. Okay.
So is there a deadline when you want comments back by?
She's interested in getting this in as quickly as possible, so, you know.
In a day or so?
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. And she, you know, and she was asking for Bill's help to make sure it's legally correct. So he does. Mayor's got one, Ed needs one, Bob needs one, and Al needs one. There we go, thank you.
Thank you.
That was what we got. I told you what help she's looking for. So that's the only positive development on Cooper Lake.
And we obviously haven't heard anything from Region 3 at all about anything.
Well, that I tell you, believe it, that I'd reach right out and touch on that.
Okay. Transmission main rehab project.
We're meeting to tie up the loose ends on next Tuesday. We're meeting at the plant. One of the holdups is the surveyor missed some stuff. So we're gonna meet with them, they're gonna come back and pick it up so Tom can move forward. But they've done a lot of the preliminary environmental work that's already been done. Cooper Lake tree.
Cooper Lake tree trimming.
Yeah, to get the power to the well house, the poles go from farther down on 212 and back to the backside up over the meter chamber. And they're all overgrown, and so to do the SCADA system, as well as any dam work, they really do need to be trimmed, those trees. Debbie put out an RFP to accomplish that for me, and met with the people. We've gotten 3 bids back. The lowest bidder was a Superior Tree for $4,500. And then we'll maintain that road. I mean, the road was cut in probably in '90 and nobody ever maintained it, so the trees are grown, it just needs to be trimmed and cut back. So that, and thanks to Kyle McIntosh, one of the challenges we've always had up there is that the cell service is virtually non-existent unless you're standing on one leg and leaning out the car window, you know, at an odd angle. And we've had to rely on a landline. But through Kyle's negotiations on behalf of the city and with Spectrum, I guess it is now, they're willing to bring Time Warner along our poles up to the well house, which is huge. And same thing at Big Hollow. And that'll help our SCADA stuff. So Debbie took the initiative to go out and get the prices, and we got 3 people to participate. I have a bid of $4,500 from Superior, something, Odd Jobs by Bill, I think is the guy's name. He's a legitimate insurance. He was $48,000, and Shannon Ryan was $8,500. So I would see if we can move forward and award the project to.
So we need a motion
Yes.
to,
For tree trimming at Cooper Lake to award to Superior Tree. And now I actually have the actual, the actual proposal for you.
Okay.
I have it upstairs.
So a motion to award the
Award contract
to Superior not to exceed
$4,500.
$4,500 for tree trimming as indicated in our bid proposal.
okay, need a second? Harold, okay, those in favor? Opposed?
The motion was made by,
Peg
Okay.
and Harold.
Second by Harold.
thank you.
Down on RFP.
Okay.
This is,
So jumping down to DEC, SPDES notice of.
oh, we got a 60-day extension on that. Remember we talked about the notice of violation. Couple of things on that. Paul Cabral from CDM, who is the person that worked with Troy, met us up there. He was there yesterday. I've talked to him a couple of times. I sat with him at our meeting for a while, and we talked about what the prospect was. After we had a conference call, the problem may not be as dire as we thought it was, but we'll work with him. Derek is doing some extensive sampling on the filter backwash to determine what the loading is. It's not what it used to be. So we're using more water, but, less water actually, and more particulates coming out. So we'll have that work, and they'll have it done ahead of time. When I wrote the letter and asked for the extension, DEC gave it to us, which was shocking.
Yeah. You're shocked, I'm not.
Did they give it to us?
Yeah. I mean,
No, the engineer that we're dealing with, it seems to be a very reasonable guy, very nice.
I like that we responded in a
We did.
timely manner.
Yeah.
We didn't ignore him.
We've learned a long time ago, that is not the right course of action. It's like ignoring the IRS. It only gets way worse.
Correspondence?
I have nothing.
None?
I have one thing that I left off, a very minor issue that I'd like you to consider if you would. Right now, for years, we were always told common wisdom that we had to have an original signature on a voucher to be able to pay a bill. You can imagine with the advent of, faxes and scanning, emails, people just don't get it. And so a large part of the office time is calling people, chasing down a voucher. Pain in the neck. And it's a silly use of staff time. So for many years, Al and I have been, where did this come from? So we've asked, he's gone up to government, GFOA people, and he's asked, and nobody, we've asked our auditors, we've asked, nobody seems to know. And what I think it comes down to is we need a resolution from the board to say that we can accept scanned and faxed signatures on a voucher to be able to process a payment. And in point of fact, that's what the city does.
Yeah, we started a few months, or last year. and
Right.
It's worked well.
Right. And so it's, right on the email, you're gonna see where it came from, it's just, so I meant to ask last month, and then I saw Kevin, in preparation for this, was making phone calls to people, I can't pay that bill. This is just a waste of his time. So. And nobody can believe it, you need a what? Do I even own a pen?
What do you need, a resolution?
Yeah, a resolution.
To be able to pay bills on
On a scan, yes.
electronic signatures.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
You have to.
So move.
Okay.
Okay, second, someone with
I'll
second?
second.
Joanne, second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Okay. Committee assignments. Sat down, pass them around. Who else needs some on this side? Judy, it was put together. You said there's another one that,
Well, Jane did these for me. We didn't have the right size pouches, as you can tell, to laminate them, so she just ordered them, and I'm certain you'll get a replacement at some point, because she's not happy with the way they look.
so on the one side has board members and contact information for everyone. And on the other side, it has the committee assignments. So auditing, there's Bob and Harold. Personnel is going to be myself and Ted. And the union, it's everyone. And that only occurs
Every 3 years.
when the contract is up for negotiations. Finance, and we kind of combined some of the previous committees. Because we really don't seem to, even though we have a committee set up, we really don't use that to the full extent. But Harold and Bob, again, planning is Peg and Joanne, and public relations is myself and Judy, the way we set it up. And I didn't think that the mayor would want to be involved with any of them, but if you do, I think you're probably busy enough as it is with your other duties.
Yeah.
But if you really like to be away from the house more than you are, we'll sign you up.
Promised that from last meeting, and so
That's very nice, thank you.
where it is, so I
Thank you.
appreciate everyone's involvement. Just moving on to superintendent's report.
Sure.
Okay, but before we do that, I'd just like to make an acknowledgement. Judy received the John Diven Award from the New York section of the AWWA, and maybe she can actually
Tell you what that means.
tell Bob and Bill and I, and
Thank you for coming, and thank you guys for your
Judy's
notes.
sister
Everybody's-
and niece came up
Yeah, and
to see the
then,
presentation.
and
It was
then I
very
had to
nice.
feed them.
Oh.
Then I had to feed them, that was all right though. Anyway, it was nice. John M. Diven Jr. is the son of John M. Diven, who was a real pioneer in the water business, very, right up there with the John Leal, who, pioneered disinfection with chlorine, and George Warren Fuller, who made, filtration an everyday thing for all of us. So he was the elder, that's not who the award is, but his son, who came after him. The elder was superintendent in Troy, he was a superintendent in Charleston, South Carolina, and